Welcome to the It's All for Love podcast. I'm Cheryl Mazza, the healing dancer, your host. This is a love-centered space honoring the enduring legacy and spirit of Michael Jackson and the powerful ways his message continues to live through us today. Through personal stories, meaningful reflections, and heartfelt conversations, we explore the moments he struck us in the heart and how that love still moves through us and the world today. So take a breath and let's begin today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the It's All for Love podcast. I am Cheryl Mazza, the healing dancer, your host. And today we have Bov from Warrington, England. He has an amazing story to tell us. I'm so excited for you all to hear it. I'm not going to give it all away right now, but it has to do with dance. And it leads to so many different amazing things, including Michael Jackson. Bov is still a pro dancer to this day, pro dance teacher. Sorry, I'm sure he's still a dancer too, and is teaching locally. So welcome, Bov, to the podcast. I am so excited for you to tell your story. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
Yes. Well, go ahead, start your story. Let us in on this inspiring story.
Okay, well, just to clear one thing up, I'm not much of a dancer these days. I'm a little bit too old for that. Teaching, yes. Performing, not so much. The body is willing, but the mind, the mind is willing, but the body is not, unfortunately. The story that I have, obviously, I'm going to try and condense it down, some of it, so I don't drag it out too much. But for me personally, I don't think my story even works without the backstory. I think it needs that to kind of have any weight behind it, but I'll try and condense it a little bit. So I was born in the 1960s, and my mother was 16 when she had me. She gave me up for adoption almost straight away. And I was adopted, and I moved up north in England to Warrington, and it was difficult. The people who adopted me, it was a white couple, and the place we lived was like, I'd say 99% white people. So, and back then it was a very different time back then. So obviously you can imagine what it was like with the racism and stuff like that. It was pretty severe back then. But on top of that, the parents were very, very abusive. So my adopted father, so when I speak about someone I call him my father, that's the person that I'm talking about. He's not actually my father, but he was the only father that I actually ever had, as bad as he was. So he was a paedophile, and he seemed to have like a preference for young black kids, because they had 6 natural daughters of their own, but they adopted and fostered all these black children that were brought into the house. So obviously, growing up and living in an environment where, you know, you go outside, you've got all the racism to deal with. You come inside, you're dealing with the abuse from your parents, and the abuse from my parents was really horrendous. They kind of enjoyed reminding me that my mother had kind of left me, because apparently she had other kids, but she chose to keep them, but got rid of me. And they used to enjoy reminding me of that all the time, which as a young child, it's a hard thing to listen to. So as I got older and I got bigger and I got more aggressive because of all the abuse that was happening, and I started to kind of fight back against it. And I got to like 11 or 12 years old, and I was as big as my father then, and he couldn't deal with me at all. So I was removed from the home, removed from my foster brothers and sisters, which again was something that was very difficult. And I was sent to what I can only kind of call a reform school. And this reform school, it was also very, very brutal, because back then it was the kind of place where any kind of child that they had in society that they couldn't put in prison, because you weren't really breaking the law, but you were too difficult to be managed at home by your parents or at school. This was the kind of place that they put you. You didn't go home. When you went there, you stayed there. So there was a real mixture of kids in this place. You know, some of the kids in there just simply had dyslexia or ADHD, but there were other kids like me who'd been abused and had reacted. So they then had the consequences of being sent there. They didn't deserve to be there. That's just what happened to them. And there were some kids there who deserved to be there. So I spent 4 years in that school. And again, it was brutal. It was run by an ex-prison governor who, I think he forgot he was dealing with teenagers, basically. He treated us like we were prisoners. And the teachers, let's just say, they had license to restrain the children if needs be. So the word restrain has a very wide umbrella. You know, certain teachers will take that word to mean one thing, some will take it to mean another. So violence was often used by the teachers under this umbrella of, I'm just restraining this child who has got aggressive for some reason. You know, kids would run away. I ran away a couple of times. The police would come and get you. They'd bring you straight back. So that was my life up until they let me out when I was 16. By that time, my adopted father had been arrested, charged, and convicted for being a paedophile. And I was then told that they couldn't then send me back to there to live because of that conviction. And they said, we've got nowhere else for you to go. So I was kind of in this state of limbo. I've got no home to go to. They don't know where to put me. So they got me another foster home. I ran away from there within a few months. And ironically, I actually ran back to school. I went straight back to that school and I said, as bad as this place has been, I've been here for that long. This is the only thing that I know now. So this is home. And I basically refused to leave. But I couldn't stay because I was over 16 and I couldn't stay there anymore. So they put me in a children's home, which was more of the same. I'm not quite sure what they call children's homes in America, whether they're called the same thing, I don't know. But I'm sure they have them. So the children's home was the same. It was more of the same. Loads of kids who all felt abandoned by society, who didn't really care very much about what happened to them. You know, they had no mothers, no fathers, they had no family and no one to take care of them. So, you know, we just did what we wanted. And I think that was probably the most dangerous part for me growing up, was being big enough and old enough to make stupid decisions, adult decisions, mixed with drugs and alcohol and this burning rage that I've got, that the world has just been, you know, piling things on top of me again and again and again, and I don't understand why. You know, you're looking at yourself and you're thinking, what have I done to deserve this? I've done nothing. I've just been born. And from birth till now, it's just been either abandonment or it's been abuse, and you have no idea. And on top of that as well, you know, you're looking out from these institutions that you're in, and you're seeing the rest of the world having these lives that everyone just kind of takes for granted. And you're kind of thinking, why are they living like that? And why am I living like this? What did I do? You know, and that's, you know, for the majority of my time growing up at that age, all I could think was, why on earth did my mother have an abortion? I just don't know why she didn't do it. If she was 16, have an abortion and just save me this life that you've given me that I don't want to live, but I'm stuck with it. So I'm in a children's home. It's the only people controlling us were a couple of social workers. We weren't listening to the police. So what chance have social workers got of controlling loads of unruly kids who don't care about the consequences? They had no chance. So we went out, we started committing a lot of crime. I got arrested multiple times for lots of different things, for fighting, for stealing cars, really stupid stuff. Normally under the influence of drugs and alcohol, which I think played a part in maybe 90% of the bad decisions I've ever made in my life, was due to drugs and alcohol, helping to fuel this rage that I had. So I end up in prison, which was fully deserved, in my opinion. You know, you make a bad choice, then there are consequences. You know, the world doesn't care that you've been crapped on. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean you get to go and break the law. Doesn't mean you get to go and take other people's stuff. Doesn't mean you get to assault people. It doesn't mean that. So I fully accept the consequences. I still didn't think it was fair, the hand that I'd been dealt, but it's still no excuse. Unfortunately, prison didn't really faze me at all, because it was no different to being at school. And after 4 years in that school, the time I got in prison was significantly less. It was like a holiday.
Mm.
In fact, if I think back properly, a lot of the other kids in there who'd lived comfortable lives at home with their families, this was the first time they'd ever been away from home before. So they were terrified. Whereas me, this was all I knew. So I was like, what's the big deal? I've not been separated from my parents. I don't even know my own parents. No, I'm missing. No, I haven't got any family to miss. I'm used to being locked up. So it didn't really faze me. I was actually quite concerned that it didn't scare me like it was supposed to. The only thing that bothered me was when one of my adopted sisters, which is one of the natural daughters of my adopted parents, who I was still in contact with because they were not at fault for their parents' behaviors. So I was still in contact with a couple of them. One of them came to visit me, and I remember being very embarrassed when she came because me being there, she'd had to travel so far to come and see me. I remember thinking, right, you've got to do better than this. You just can't keep doing this. You've got to make a decision, get out of here, and just do something. So I got out of prison, and they got me a council flat. So a council flat in the UK, I would compare it to like the projects. It's not as bad as the projects. It's somewhere in between suburbia and the projects. So it's not nice, but it's not the worst place you can be either. But it's not nice. I didn't care. At least I had my own place. I moved in. I had no possessions at all. Everything I owned was in a carrier bag. I had no furniture. I had absolutely nothing. The whole place was completely bare. If I remember rightly, the social services found my furniture from local charity shops where they got me old used couches and carpets and used cookers, stuff like that. And I didn't care. I was happy. I thought I'm not going to sleep on the street, which is great. It's not the best place to live, but it's mine. So I thought this is a start. And I managed to get a job. Nothing glamorous. I was just working on a production line. I was making cookers, and cookers would come down the line, and I'm sticking knobs on cookers, which I've got to say is one of these most monotonous jobs that you can ever imagine in your life ever. And there were guys working there saying to me, "Oh, good lad, this job's great. You could be here in 30 years if you really focus and keep doing it." And I was thinking, 30 years of doing this is my idea of hell. I'm not built for this. But I had no other option. I was just trying to stay out of prison at this point and trying to figure out how to be better than what I've been doing, how not to be raging at the world, raging at myself, because internally, I mean, it's very hard to describe how you feel in that situation. To people who grow up at home with the families, they will never understand that feeling. Stuff that people take for granted. Like, I mean, I'm old now, and I've never celebrated a birthday with my family or a Christmas with my family. I've never celebrated Mother's Day or Father's Day, just normal things like that. I've never done it once in my entire life. I don't know what that feeling is like to have people around you who actually care about your existence and celebrate the time when you were born. I have no idea what that feels like. Growing up knowing that your existence is probably a mistake, that you probably weren't even meant to be. It's a hard thing to carry, especially when you're a child, and it stays with you. So these are all the emotions that are going on in me all the time. I'm raging. I want to find my mother, and honestly, I want to get her by the scruff of the neck and get her to explain why she's done this. Why did you even have me? Why didn't you just make a different decision? Or why didn't you come back? Because one of my adopted parents did tell me when I was younger that they met my mother during the adoption process and when she was 16, and she told them that she would come back for me when she was 18. So basically, you're holding him for me until I'm 18. And they told me this, and they again reveled in the fact of telling me and going, "Ha, look, she never came." Because that's what your life is worth. It's worth nothing. And that statement stayed with me for a long time of realizing that she said she'd come back and she never did. So I was always like, what does that make me? She swore she'd come back, and I was always waiting for her. She'll be back, she'll be back. And she never came back. So this is the internal rage in me, and it's there constantly. So I've got this job. I'm trying to trying to be better. So I start going out with my friends, socializing, and I start going into the clubs, getting drunk, partying, and I start entering these dance competitions that happen in the clubs where you have a dance competition, you win a bottle of house wine or something, the winner, there you go. Ironically, I didn't even win them all. And I'm now the pro dancer. I actually lost a few of them, but I did well in most of them. Didn't think anything of it. I'd learned a few dance moves around the way over the years, out on the streets with my friends learned to moonwalk and a few other daft things like that. You know, I had a mild interest in dance. I'd seen a couple of dance movies like Breakdance the movie when I was 15. And I remember watching that and loving it. I used to watch Fame as well. Mm. And I wanted to be like Leroy. Because I remember Leroy was the bad boy from the bad side of town who ended up being a dancer. I remember thinking at the time, that's the guy I'd want to be. But I never thought anything else of it apart from that. So I just left it at that. And then one day, one of my friends comes to me and says, there's that TV show that's on. The dancers train in the town centre in Warrington. Why don't you go? So there was like a reality TV show that was filmed back in the late 80s. And it was filmed inside nightclubs. And it was filmed pretty much live. And it was just chaos, because it was live and everyone's drunk. And he basically went, cameras rolling, whatever happens, just happens. And it's hosted by two presenters. One is a DJ who's very famous over here, who was the creator of Pop Idol, which turned into American Idol and X Factor and stuff like that. He was the creator of that kind of genre of program. And he's very well known in the business. He discovered a lot of artists. He was the guy who gave us Kylie Minogue, among other people. And so he had quite a lot of power. So he came up with this idea because he's from Warrington as well. And I just want to film it from the club. We'll have DJs playing, we'll have bands that come on, we'll do fashion shows, we'll get people out of the crowd, we'll get them on stage, they can do dance competitions, we can play funny games with them, we'll just film it all and just see what happens. So I think at first this whole show was supposed to be a joke. It was given, I think, a 6-week contract to see how it would go, because no one had a clue how it was going to work. And where the dancers fitted in was in between the acts being on and the people in the crowd being pulled on stage. The dancers would go on in between all these different sections. So dancers are quite a big part of the show. We were on stage for, say, 70% of the time. So the show ended up being a really big success. People just enjoyed the fact that you could just go home. You could film it from like 12 till 2, and you could go home from the club, and by the time you got home, it got broadcast on TV. So you could film it in the club and watch it the same night being broadcast. And because it was semi-live, as in there was no cuts, it's just films, whatever happens, people were doing all kinds of stuff because there was no way to edit it out. It's just whatever happens, that's what the public are going to see. And everyone loved it. It ended up running for 3 years in the end. So the dancers for this show trained in a club where I live. So my friend says, why don't you go down and see what's happening? So, first of all, I'm thinking, I'm not a dancer. I can, drunkenly out dance you guys on a Friday night, but these are professionals, they're on television. But what do I know about that? But more concerning to me was my lack of social skills, because I didn't have any. So I'm thinking, well, how do I fit in with these people? I don't know how to. So he dragged me down there, forced me through the door, because I tried to run away at first, but he forced me in. And the explosion of emotions that I had when I walked into this club, because it was massive. It was one of the first super clubs the UK ever had. It was absolutely huge. I'd never been in it before. So I walked in, and it was just this overwhelming feeling of, I can't even describe it, what it was. It did not feel like I was looking at a dance class. It was just, the best way I can describe it is, it's like if you've got a passion about something, but you're not aware that passion even exists until you're pushed into a scenario where there are a load of people doing it right in front of your face. and then it just gets switched on, and that passion in you just suddenly comes up out of nowhere, and you're like, wow, what is this? That's the best way I can describe it. I didn't know what was happening. It was so much more than just dancing, and I just thought, right, okay, let's just try and let's just see what happens. Ironically, I spoke to Jaffa last week, the guy who will eventually become my dance partner. Obviously, I haven't mentioned him yet. And I asked him the same question about how he felt when he turned up at that club for the first time, because I thought, am I being over dramatic the way that I say that it felt to me when I first stepped in there? And I asked him how he felt when he first turned up there, and he described it exactly the same, almost word for word of what I said. He said it felt like, he said it was the love that he could feel from all these people in the same place doing the same thing. That there was no hate, there was no judgment. He said I couldn't explain how I felt, and I said, well, thank God, because that's how I said I felt about it, and I thought I was making it up. And Java said, no, that's how I felt about it too.
Wow.
So that was quite nice that I wasn't
Yeah.
really exaggerating how it felt. It was just so much more than just a feeling about dancing. It's not just about that. So I joined the class. I got a 2 hour just lesson in the difference between what I knew to do and what professionals knew what to do. They didn't teach me how to dance. They taught me how to. The first thing they taught me was choreography. And the first routine that I learned that night was Michael Jackson's Beat It, which turns out to be quite ironic. And I couldn't do it at all. But that's the first time that I started to learn how to read music, how to understand what counts are for, all stuff that was completely alien to me. So I did the first class and I was terrible. So I went to the guy who was in charge. It was a guy called Clive. And everyone knew Clive. Everybody was this black guy. He wore this big white wig, which is why he stood out. And I apologized to him for being as bad as I'd been. I said, can I come back again? And he just laughed and said, of course. And I just kept going. Every Tuesday, no matter what, I was there. I would practice at home for 8 hours a day, freestyling non-stop. Go again, go again, go again. You know, I'm upstairs, the neighbors downstairs, they're probably not loving it at all. But unfortunately, it's better than me breaking the law. So that's what I'm doing. And I wanted to get on TV so bad. I wanted to be part of the crew so badly. And I knew for that to happen, I needed to get good. And I thought the only person who can train you to freestyle is you. And it was just again and again and again and again and again and go back to class. And again, they would teach me how to perform. They would teach me how to read a crowd. They would teach me all the ways to use my craft and what to do with it. Not how to dance, but what to do with it when the time comes, which would turn out to be very useful for what was to come. You know, they taught me to have courage. So I just kept going and going and going. And eventually, after a few months, Clive said, right, you come on a gig. So the TV show was filmed on a Saturday night, but during the week, they would do personal appearances and shows at clubs because everyone knew who they were because they were on television. So Clive says one day, right, you're coming. So they took me on a gig and they left me there. We all turned up together. They went, you're doing it solo. And they just left. I had no warning. I'd never done a gig in my life. And I just remember thinking, one, don't let Clive down. No matter what happens, don't let him down. Because the respect I have for Clive at this point, he was like a father to me. He doesn't know that. He just thought I was just another dancer trying to dance. What he doesn't know is he was the first kind of positive male role model I'd ever seen.
Mm.
You know, who was not trying to abuse me or, you know, physically hurt me or something like that. Who hadn't abandoned me, hadn't gone, you know, you're useless, you're this, you're that. He was the first one. And he was doing something that I love to do. So my respect for him was absolutely huge. And I just thought, I'm not letting Clive down. I'm not letting the team down. So I just thought, just get out there and just do it. I remember thinking, you know, you've only got a few moves and there was no stage. So I was dancing in the middle of the dance floor with the crowd in a big circle around me. I just thought, right, if the worst comes to the worst, just do all the moves you've got, do them facing that way, then do them facing that way, then do them facing that way, and do them facing that way. Just repeat them if you have to, but just dance. So I went out. That's exactly what I did. The crowd went crazy. So I was a bit stunned and thinking, okay, all right, that was good. Came back off. I'm sat in the changing room by myself, and I'm thinking, right, Clive and the guys going to come back. They're going to go nuts. I'm sitting there waiting for the adulation that is going to come my way. And I tell them I've done it all by myself. I didn't bottle out. I did it. It was great. And he came back in, and they could not care less. They were not even remotely happy. Well, they were, but there was no adulation. He just came in and said, "How did it go?" I went, "Great." He went, "Right, grab your stuff, let's go." And the lack of reaction was way more important than the reaction, because the lack of reaction just told me they knew you were going to do that. They knew it, because you're part of the team. You wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have put you on that gig solo unless you were already part of the team. So you already are. That lack of reaction is all the reaction that you need. So I knew that was the first time I ever got paid for a dancing job, and it gave me that title. It gave me that title of professional dancer, and having that title, you might as well have been pinning a medal on my chest at that point. That's how proud I was to have that title. If someone said to me, "What do you do?" I could say, "I'm a pro dancer." That alone was mind blowing to me, that I now had this title and I was part of this crew who was going out and I was getting paid to just dance. So that was a huge moment. Was that the courage to do that show by myself, which was something else again that would come in handy much later on. And I'm glad that Clive taught me courage. There's the sink or swim mentality of don't think about it. There's a reason why you're performing and the people are watching you. You have to remember that. There's a reason why you're up there and they're down there. Now go and show them. So they took me on the TV show within a few weeks, and it was quite scary, but I kind of hid at the back. So I was there, pushed right to the back of the stage, doing my thing, just happy to be there. I didn't want any extra attention. I thought, I'm not as good as the guys at the front, so I'm going to hide back here. Just let me do my thing back here. I'm good. So I did that a few times, and I was happier. I wasn't breaking the law. I wasn't taking drugs. All my old friends from that kind of part of my life had gone. All my friends now were dancers. My life was work in the factory, dance, 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 train, TV. That was my life, and I was happy with it. I thought, okay, it's not perfect, but you know what? It's it's better. The internal rage is still there, but it's suppressed. It's manageable, and I'm happy. But then that's when Jaffa turns up, and this is where everything changes completely. Jaffa was the part of the jigsaw that I didn't even know that was needed. And like I said, when I spoke to him last week, I realized how little we've actually discussed a lot of this stuff between ourselves, because he gave me some pointers to stuff that I didn't even know, which changed my opinion on a lot of what I thought was actually happening. So Jaffa's situation is very, very similar to mine in a lot of ways. So he's 2 years younger than me. So we're obviously pretty much the same age. He's mixed race, and he was taken from his mother rather than she abandoned him. He was taken by force, from what I remember, and given to a foster family in a town 10 miles from where I lived. And he had lived there with other foster children. I think one of them was Asian, and she was either blind or deaf. I can't remember which one. But she used to get picked on a lot because she was Asian and because of her disability. So he spent a lot of time fighting to protect her and to protect himself, because, again, he was living in a town that was 99% white people. Back in these days, a lot of people had never seen black people before. So the way we were treated was rough. He wasn't educated at all. He was almost illiterate, and he won't mind me saying that at all. He could hardly read, he could hardly write, and he was having a miserable time. And just like me, one of his friends had dragged him down to this club and said, why don't you go and try out for that? And same as me, he learnt a couple of dance moves on the street with his friends. He learnt a few tricks here and there. And he thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And he came down one night, and that's when he saw me. I asked him this last week, and I said, Jaffa, I don't really know why. I said, why did you pick me? I've never asked you that question before. And he said, from the first minute I looked down, it was always you. He said, I looked down. He said, number one, he said, I could see how good you were. He said, you were amazing. He said, I thought that guy's the best dancer in here. Number two, and most importantly, he said, you look like me. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, not physically. He said, but the way you were dressed compared to all the others, you were dressed like I was. He said, so I knew that you came from an environment similar to mine. I could just tell by looking at you, by the way you moved, by the way you dressed. I knew that me and you were the same. And that was all it took. Because Jaffa then, he saw me, he wandered down to where I was dancing. I'd never met this guy in my life. And he walked up to me, introduced himself, and just said to me, have you got a dance partner? And I went, no. And he said, well, you have now. And apparently I just went, all right. I accepted him. I didn't even know who he was. And he just picked me. He said, the minute I saw you, he went, I thought, that's my guy. That guy right there. It's him. So it was such a random meeting. And the fact that I accepted this guy that I didn't even know without even questioning who he was, or just, okay, this crazy Rastafarian, absolutely, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we partnered up straight away. And we have opposite personalities, me and Jaffa. I was still quite introverted at this point. That's why I'm hiding at the back. I'm not getting involved in anything. I'm not bothering the other dancers unless I have to. Whereas Jaffa is completely the opposite. He is the most extrovert person you will ever meet in your life. He does not care. And he has the charisma to pull it off. The stories I could tell you about the things that this man did, where you think, Jaffa, we're not going to get away with that. And he would, which it was mind-blowing to me. I'll tell you a quick story, right? So I'm going to go off script a little bit here, just to give you an idea of what his personality was like. So we're on tour with Michael. So we know where this is going, right? And Diana Ross has come to watch. We've been given specific instructions, right, to not bother Diana Ross. All kinds of celebrities turn up to see Michael. They're all over the place. You know, you get there's Bono over there, Sly Stallone over there. We're used to it. It's nothing. So certain ones get given this high tier list. They must be Michael's close friends, where you are told under no circumstance that you go and bother this person. So we're told to leave Diana Ross alone. So the minute we've been told to leave her alone, and the guy who told us has left the changing room, I'm thinking, Jaffa, don't. And I know what's happening. He's in his bag and he's rummaging, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? I said, Jaffa, what are you doing? He said, I'm looking for a camera. And I went, what's the camera for? He said, well, we're going to go and see Diana Ross. And I was like, oh boy. So there's only me, Jaffa, and Rosella in the room. And I'm thinking, oh God. I said, Jaffa, we've just been told under no circumstance to go and find this woman. And he's like, nah, I'll be fine. I'll be absolutely fine. So at this point, I've given up. So I know if he wants to go, he's going to go. And if he gets sacked from the tour, I'm going with him. So I might as well go with him at this point. I've got nothing to lose. I'm still thinking that Rosella, who is the singer, is behind me, that she will pull rank and go, look, boys, we've been told not to go. You're not going. So there's a bit of an awkward silence. I'm looking at Rosella thinking, please, Rosella, say something. And Rosella turns around and says, well, if you two are going, I'm coming with you. And I'm thinking, dude, this is a problem. So off we go. We track down her room somehow. She's in a private room. Jaffa knocks on the door. She's in there with her family, by the way. I think her daughter was in there with her. The door opens a little crack, so I can't see her face, but I can see this big mop of black hair, so I know it's her. I'm just thinking, we're going to get fired. We are going to get fired for this. What are we doing? And she pokes her eye out the crack of the door. Jaffa's right at the door. And he's like, die. He's literally calling her die. Like it's an old family friend. So she kind of opens the door a bit more, looks out. Next minute, he's hugging her and he's patting her and he's kind of going, die, how are you, darling? So her face is over his shoulder and I'm behind him. So I can see her face. I'm looking at her, kind of going, I'm really sorry about all this. Please don't have us fired. Jaffa's still got her in like, it's like a headlock almost. And she just starts laughing. And I'm like, what? And she starts laughing. It doesn't bother her in the slightest. It's like she's known him all her life. And I'm thinking, he's doing it again. How are you getting away with this? We've been told to leave her alone. You've got her in a headlock, for God's sake. And she's happy about it. I don't understand how this is happening. And if you look at the picture that we've got with Diana Ross and look at the look on that woman's face, look how happy she is. She's got a smile from ear to ear because that was Jaffa. He treated every single person the same way, no matter who you were, whether you were Michael Jackson, a cleaner, cleaning the toilet. Everyone was the same to him. And they loved it. We met multiple celebrities and they all just accepted him. That's the best way I can describe him. He does what he wants, and for some reason, people just accepted it. We're both on the show at this point. Jaffa starts saying to me, right, we need to make some changes here. And I said, what do you mean? We're on the show, it's great. He went, no, we can do better than this. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, we've got to make the show work for us. Hiding at the back is going to get us nowhere. We're not hiding at the back anymore. We're going to do everything at the front, so where everyone can see us, where the whole world can see us. And I said, why? And he said to me, how are our families ever going to find us? And I was like, what? He said, why do you think we're doing this? That's one of the reasons why we're doing this. He said, do you want to see your mother? Do you want to see your father? I said, yeah. He said, well, so do I. He said, how are they going to find us if we blend in the background in society? How are they going to find us? They could be looking for us. How are they going to know where we are unless we're successful? And I was just like, that doesn't make any sense at all. But that was part of his mission, was helping himself and helping me. And I was always saying to him, how are we going to be successful, Jaffa? I said, we're nobodies. I said, look at us. We haven't got anything between us. We haven't got any money. We haven't got any support system. It's just you and me. We're nothing. And, he would always say to me, he said, but you're not nothing. He said, I get why you feel the way you do. Because, the world's been crapping on you for the last 20 years nearly. He said, I get why you feel the way you do. He said, but you're not nothing. And I'm going to prove it to you. He said, neither of us are. I said, we're going to prove it. We're going to prove it to everybody. He said, when I saw you down on that dance floor for the first time and I picked you, he said, it's because I knew that once me and you teamed up, that no one would be able to stop us. There's nothing that we wouldn't be able to do. I mean, once we became a duo, I'm thinking, what? But yeah, okay. Whatever you say, we are now going to do. Because I've got nothing else to do anyway. And if this helps us find our families and relieve some of this pain that we have, which is highly unlikely, I'm going to do it. And Jaffa said, right. So you make a couple of rules. We always dance together. We never dance solo. We refuse any other way. And no one tells us what to do, dance-wise. Doesn't matter who it is. We decide what we're doing. Right, okay. What's step one? So step one, we're on the show. We're at the front now. There's no more hiding at the back. We're at the front. We're dancing at the front next to Clive. If they do a fashion show, we're doing the modelling. If there's games on the stage with the punters, we're helping out. We're mixed in everything. But more importantly, we start approaching the groups that come on the show, the groups that we've been told to not to bother. Don't go and speak to Kylie Minogue. As I just said with Diana Ross, Jaffa don't care about any of that. Mm. We're straight over to the groups as they arrive. Have you got dancers tonight on the show? So the groups are surprised because no one's ever said this to them before. No. Right, well, we'll do it. Okay. So we started doing that. And Jaffa will keep saying to me, they have to get to know us because our personalities are way more important than the dance ability. If you don't like us, who's going to want to work with us? If we can dance and we're assholes, we're finished. He said our personalities will be more than enough to carry us where we need to go. So we'll just keep bothering them again and again and again. They'll get to know us. They're used to having us around. And we did that. And we did it with the acts on the show repeatedly over and over again. And we got to know a few of them. So the next phase was Jaffa suggested that we now need to go and work for these same bands outside of the TV show. And I said, how do we do that? And he said, well, we listen out on the radio, on TV for shows that they're doing in different clubs up and down the country. And we just go there. We'll just get our gear, travel down there, turn up at the club, bluff our way in, and force them to let us dance for them. And I said, that's not going to work. And he said, it will. Trust me. He said, it will. And I said, well, we get to the club. What if the club rings the act and says, your dancers are here? And they go, we haven't got any dancers. We don't even get in. And then we're in London or Glasgow in the middle of the night with nowhere to go. What he was like, don't worry, it'll be perfect. So I just said, right, okay. So that's what we did. We grab our gear, jump a train to Glasgow or London, 3 hours hiding in the toilet, get off at the other end, go straight to the club. We just say to them, look, we're the dancers, show us in, take us to our changing room. And they never questioned it once. Not once did anyone ever stop us and kind of say, really? Give us some proof. They just accepted who we said we were. Because let's face it, who's going to turn up and do that? No one. Because it makes no sense. So it was such a simple plan and it made no sense and they just went for it. So we did that multiple times and the acts would turn up. They'd walk in, they'd recognize us from the TV show. It's Bov and Jaffa. What are you doing here? We're dancing for you tonight. Okay. And we'd go out and we'd dance. We'd do all the moves that we had. We had no choreography whatsoever. It was all tricks and freestyle. And the crowd loved it. You know, we weren't claiming to be to have all these slick routines. That was not us. But we were doing dangerous stuff and they could see we were loving it. So the crowds used to get right behind us. We'd finish the show and we'd just leave. Off into the night, gone. This would be like, 3 a.m? We've got nowhere to go. So we're sleeping rough on the street and then jumping a train, back in the toilet again, back up to the north. And we did that multiple times and we loved it. It was just like an adventure, dancing on stage with these famous singers. And we didn't care about the money. And, they would try and pay us a couple of times and we'd refuse to take the money, which I think, again, endeared us to them because they just couldn't understand why we were saying no to the cash. You can pay for somewhere to stay at least or get something to eat. And we were like, no. Not until our fee is on top of your fee. Don't pay us out of your money. You didn't tell us to come here. We came off our own back. We're not going to take your money over something that we decided to do. So until we work for you properly, we're not taking any money at all. And then we'd be gone. And I remember Jocelyn Brown crying one night. She got really emotional when we turned the money down because I think she was the first one that got really used to us turning up at these shows. When we turned up, she was really happy about it. And she was the one who tried to keep paying us, and we just said no. And she burst into tears one night when we wouldn't take the money because she couldn't understand why we would do it for no money. And I think not being motivated by money was another one of the strengths that we had. And also, I think that having the upbringings that we did also turned out to be a strength because to do that part of it, of risking being arrested on the way there, having no food, having nowhere to stay, risking your safety, sleeping rough on the streets of foreign cities, and then risking arrest on the way back and doing it multiple times, you need your ability to do that. You know, if you live a life of comforts, you're not going to want to do something like that. No way. But to me and Jaffa, we didn't bat an eyelid. We're lying on the pavement using our dance bags as pillows, just lying there, loving it. And I think things being so tough, it made us resilient to that kind of stuff. We're not bothered at all. We keep repeating this process. And we end up at a gig in London, and we come off stage. We run into a guy fixing a moped. So we offer to help him to fix this moped. It turns out that this guy is the owner of a huge agency in London, and he's very grateful to these two random Northerners who tried to help him fix this moped. And we didn't know who he was. We had no idea, but we knew networking was the way forward. We knew dancing for these acts, and again, getting in the face of anyone that we could find and kind of going, "Hi, we're two kids from up north who've got no idea what we're doing, but you want someone to go on a gig? We'll go and do it. Don't matter where it is. Don't even pay us. Just send us where we're going, and we're good." And he just kind of went. He said, "Were you two guys on stage dancing before?" And we said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you want to go to Malta?" Which we was a little bit taken aback. We never danced abroad before. And we asked him who he was, and he explained, and he said, "I run this massive agency." So we said, "Yeah." So 2 weeks later, we're in Malta. Now we're international. We're thinking, okay, all right. And I'm thinking, what is my life right now? How has my life turned into this? I'm dancing abroad. So, and Jaffa's looking at me with that look on his face that kind of says, "What did I tell you?" And this would not be the last time that I would see that look. Let me tell you. He just kept looking at me going, what did I say to you? You're not nothing. You were never nothing. And we're proving it. We're going to prove it to the entire world. So we come back. We're going on another gig with Rosella. And this night, Rosella's manager says, "I'm going to watch what you do. You keep turning up at shows and dancing. I don't really watch you. Rosella's happy with you being here and dancing for her, but I've never really took it serious. But tonight I'm going to watch you because I can't get rid of you. You just keep turning up. No matter where we are, you two just keep coming. So I'm going to watch." So he watched it. Well, we danced that night and he still missed it. He got called into a meeting and missed it. So we were just thinking, okay, next time. And then he went, "No." He said, "We've got a tour in a couple of weeks. Do you want to come?" So we were like, yeah. What is it? And he said, "Right, it's us." So it's Rosella, which is his artist. It's Salt and Pepper. It's Alexander O'Neill, and it's Naughty by Nature. This is the dead silence that happened when he said that to us. So I'm thinking, wait a second. I know all these people. In the late 80s, early 90s, all of these three acts are huge. Grammy winners, Hip Hop Hall of Famers. And I'm just thinking, seriously? And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Rosella likes you. She likes having you around." And I'm thinking, again, Jaffa is correct. This is what he said in the beginning. Dancing secondary, personality first. He said she likes having you on stage with her. The crowd like her. We can't get rid of you anyway, so you might as well come with us. And it's in Germany. And we're thinking, abroad again. Yeah, there's a full band and you guys. So that night we slept rough, and we slept rough good that night, where, we're looking at each other. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm thinking, I have no idea how this is happening. And Jeff was looking at me to say, "What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Nothing's going to get in our way. Nothing." So I'm at home getting ready. We've got a couple of weeks to spare. But then we get a phone call. We get a phone call from Louis, the guy whose moped we fixed. And he says, "I've got a gig for you. It's the Middle East with Blue Pearl." We've done a few shows with Blue Pearl by now. I think we've been to Austria and Switzerland before this. So we did Malta first, then Austria, then Switzerland. Then we got offered the job in Germany with Rosella. But Louis has now said, "Right, Blue Pearl, love working with you guys. You've done well in Austria and Switzerland, in London. She's going to the Middle East. You're doing Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Muscat, and Oman. Do you want to do it?" Absolutely. These are the sort of places that me and Jaffa have never even heard of. I've heard of Dubai. I know it's exotic. But to go somewhere like that, to me and him, It's unheard of. Even to us, going to somewhere like Austria was a big deal.
Mm.
Going to Dubai was mind blowing to us. We were like, what? Mate, we felt like playboys. That's what we felt like. International playboys is what we felt like at this point. We're so excited, but there's a problem because the tour dates for these two different tours clash, and we can't do both. So now we've got a dilemma. We've got to pick which act that we go with, and we can't decide because we owe them both exactly the same amount of loyalty. We've got Rosella on one side, and we've got Blue Pearl on the other, and we've done probably as many gigs with both. How do we decide? We're loyal to both of them, and we haven't got much time, but we can't decide, and it's a nightmare. We talk about it over and over again, and we can't make a decision. We didn't even make a decision, and then luck steps in again, and one of the tours gets moved, gets postponed, and we can do both. We fly out to Germany, we do the Black Beat tour, and it's crazy. We get to work with the band for the first time. We're doing arenas of like 10, 15,000 people. We're both there in our improvised costumes, clothes that we borrowed from friends because we couldn't afford decent costumes. We're doing moves that we learned on the streets and moves that we taught ourselves, making it up as we go along. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're dancing. It's raw and it's passionate, and the crowds are loving it every second of it. We fly back from that. We change gear. London. We're in Dubai. I'm suddenly in Dubai, just looking around, going, I don't know what to think. Next minute I'm in Abu Dhabi. Jaffa's windsurfing in the Gulf. I'm water skiing in the Gulf. We're staying in the best hotel in Dubai. We're performing for royalty. And it's hard to explain how far removed from the life that both of us know what this feels like, which is why the backstory is important. Because even if you've lived in a normal kind of standard upbringing, or if you've been trained to be a dancer your entire life from an early age, and you've been in dance school and dance college and got diplomas in dance and blah, 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 this is still quite mind-blowing. But to do it from where we came from with nothing, with no real assistance, no real training. We've only been dancing for 2 years. We're literal beginners. We've got no idea what's happening. And we're just traveling the world and we're getting paid. We're getting paid pretty good. And I'm thinking, okay, this is getting good. I want to do a music video. Mate, within 3 weeks, I did 2 music videos. People actually came to the TV show we were on and asked for us to.
Really?
We want Bov and Jaffa. That's who we want, those two. Fan mail is starting to roll in to all of us. I'm at home opening fan letters from working on this TV show, and I'm thinking, I'm getting fan mail. What is happening? I'm just thinking, I don't understand how in this short amount of time I've gone from this feeling of just of self-loathing to whatever this is, because my life has gone off in a direction that I never expected. So I'm happy. I'm done a music video, which is what I wanted to do. I'm performing. I'm on TV. I'm getting fan mail. I'm getting a lot of girls, which I didn't expect that at all, because it comes with a lot of perks. This job, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm happy, mate. I'm talking the sort of girls that would never have spoke to me under normal circumstances. No way. But because of the job that I do, it's now completely different. So I'm happy. But Jaffa is not. He's going, we have more. So while we're doing the Black Beat tour in Germany with Salt and Pepper and the others, the posters were up for the Dangerous tour. And we drove past one night, and Jaffa noticed it and said, do you think we'll ever get to meet Michael? Now, I was used to whatever Jaffa wanted to happen just seemed to happen. Anything he predicted just seemed to manifest straight away. And we all just kind of laughed and went, you know what, Jaffa, this is like even out of your reach. You know, we're all doing well. We're doing some decent size shows. That's a different level. It's not happening. I never thought about it again. We're doing a show in Finland with Rosala again. Just a music festival, nothing big, nothing small, standard gig in Finland. We come off stage and we go back into the changing room. And the manager comes in, her manager, and says, right, I've got some news. So we're just like, okay, he's in the background chatting. And he said, there's a chance that we could be opening for Michael Jackson. You can hear a pin drop. Nobody knows what to say. I thought it was a joke at first. I thought it's got to be a joke. So I was like, Chris, are you joking? And he went, no. He said, is it like a tribute act or something like that? Is that what you mean? And he went, no, I mean him. You try to take in the words that are being said to you. So I'm like, you mean the real Michael Jackson? You actually mean him? He said, yes. Still, there's not many words you can say at this point. So like, when you say open for him, what do you mean? He said, well, Rosala has switched record labels. She's now signed to Sony, which is Michael Jackson's label, and when they do tours like this, the opening acts are picked from the same label as the main artist. And he's been given a lot of artists that he wants to pick from, and we're in the running for being picked. It's pretty much decided. That's what's happening. It's still almost silence in the room. So we're like, so is it a one-off? Is it Wembley? And he said, no, I don't think you understand. He said, it's not one show, it's 44 shows. It's 3 months on the road, and if it's a go, we start in 6 days. And the first night is Munich, and it'll be 72,000 people. There's no words to describe that. There aren't any. Especially when, again, you bear in mind how me and Jaffa have got there. We've taken this unorthodox path that was such a simple plan, where we removed any competition from any kind of audition process, because there wasn't audition. In fact, it was us auditioning ourselves, but doing it on stage at the time. Mm-hmm. We created an audition for ourselves because Chris, her manager, told us later they never wanted dancers of any kind, any form, ever. So not only have we convinced them to employ dancers, we've convinced them to allow it to be us at the same time, which, based on what we had to work with, is quite staggering, because we were not the best at all, but we had hearts, and the people liked us. They just liked the fact that we were just these two crazy northerners who were just like, we'll do whatever you want, just let us dance. It was staggering to me that it was a straight line from the minute I met him to where we were. There was no bumps in the road, and we had so many little bits of luck. Like when that other tour got moved, so we could end up doing both, and just little things like that. It honestly felt like we were being helped. Do you understand what I mean? As much as the first part of my life felt like I was being crapped on again and again and again, this felt like the opposite. And suddenly it felt like all that being crapped on, like I said before, when it came in handy, it was needed. Because like you say, if we'd been comfortable, we wouldn't have been sleeping rough going to those gigs. We wouldn't have done that. And we needed that to have the resilience to do that. And suddenly now we've got a straight line to the biggest show on the planet. It just made no sense. And yet again, I'm looking at Jaffa, and Jaffa's looking at me, and he's going, what did I tell you? How many times have I got to keep reminding you that you are not nothing, and I am not nothing, and we're about to show the world, and this is where we're going to do it. And at this point, I was believing everything he told me. At this point, no matter what Jaffa told me, I was like, Jaffa, you know what? So far, everything you've said to me has worked the way you said it. The fact you're someone that can't read, can't write. I said, but you understand people very, very well because you knew what it would take to get us from A to B. And it was simply just by being ourselves, by not being greedy, by being loyal, by being hardworking, and just saying to people, whatever he wants to do, we will do it. Keep your money, not interested, just let us live. Because that's what this was to us. It wasn't just about dancing. We'd had no lives up until this point. We were trying to create some kind of existence that meant something. And on top of that as well, this will bring our families to us. Underneath all this was that underlining current of we need to find our families. If they're proud of us, then they will come. Why would they come if they're not proud? And I knew he felt like that. So I'm dancing for him and he's dancing for me at the same time. And I think that's why it worked so well. Because I'm doing it for him. Because I know how much it means to him to find his mother. And he's doing it for me. Because he knows I feel exactly the same way. So between the two of us, we're working for each other. And nothing else matters. We get over the initial shock of what we've been told. It's a very quiet flight home from Finland. No one's even saying a word to each other because we can't believe what's happening. I still couldn't believe it. So we come home and actually we've got 6 days. Go to London and meet up with Zala's band and get ready to go to Munich for the first night. So we went home. We had to assemble as much gear as I could to dancing because I thought we're going to a different level here. The costumes we're wearing right now, they're thrown together. We've got a mixture of stuff we've borrowed. We're wearing women's pants that we got from a woman's clothing shop because they matched the tops that we had. I've got stuff that I borrowed from friends. That's all we've got to work with. It's going to have to do and hope that it's good enough. We packed our bags, went to London and met up with the band who we already knew from the Black Beat tour. And another stroke of luck, that the band were amazing, that we got on with them so well, right from the word go. You know, a lot of these times you're on tour, you people don't get along. But our group was really, really tight. All of us, everyone gelled straight away. You know, we were lucky to have Ian and Craig with us. We couldn't have had a better bandmates playing behind us. And we just all kind of said, right, I don't know how this is going to go, but we're doing it. We basically drove. I think we went through Vienna and got to Munich. We drove. It was like a 40-hour journey or something by bus, which is unfortunate because when we got to the stadium, the first thing you do, you have a picture taken for your pass because you have these. You've got your pass. It's got a hologram on it. It's got your picture on it as well. Now we've been in a bus for 40 hours, so when we get out, we look terrible. You know, people's hair's like this, and there's drool down your face and all this, and then you're put into a photo booth for the most important picture of your entire life. So the picture on my pass, mate, I had dreadlocks back then, so my hair's up here and some of it's down here. I remember thinking, oh man, you could have warned me that I've got to do this photo for this pass. So I had the picture taken, I got the pass on, and they said to us, don't lose it. If you lose the pass, you get fined. So we basically wore them all the time. We never took these passes off. So we've been to the hotel, dumped our gear. We're now in the stadium. Obviously, the passes are all areas. I can go wherever I want. Me and Jaffa are like, let's go out and have a look at the stage. Let's go into the stadium itself. We goes out into the stadium itself and goes back onto the pitch and heads to where the tower is in the middle of the crowd and just looks at the stage set. Just looking at the set, you still can't believe what you're looking at. I mean, again, I'm trying to explain what it feels like, but it's almost impossible to explain because your mind is blowing that much. You don't know what's happening. You look at this set, you've got the big Michael Jackson logos here and here, and you're just thinking, Jaffa, how are we here? How are we here? I don't understand it. And we go up into the stands, right to the back of the stadium. We're looking down, and it's enormous. It's the Olympic Stadium, so it's an Olympic-sized stadium. And we're thinking this is going to be full later. All the seats, all the pitch, everything. And The biggest show we've done up to this point is like 15,000. This is like say 72,000. It's not even close. So we're looking down, and then suddenly you can see people are sprinting across the pitch to the barriers at the front. So clearly the doors have been opened and people are running. You got one person, two people, 10 people, 20 people. Some of them in full Michael Jackson outfits, which is very funny, by the way. Watching 9 Michael Jacksons in full outfits sprinting across the pitch. It's very amusing. So we realised that the doors have been opened. So we need to get down, because first of all, you can't mingle with the fans. You can, but once they know you're part of the show, you're finished. Your pass will be gone, your clothes will be gone. That's how they don't care what your job is, so you can't be out there. You got to get out of the way. He goes back down and goes backstage, and we're just kind of there. We're all just kind of in our own little world. Everyone's just kind of keeping to himself and trying to take in what's happening. I think everyone's just scared, including Rosella. I had never really thought about her until the other day. She was only a couple of years older than me. I thought she was older than that because she was a lead singer. For some reason, I presumed that she was older, but now I know there's only like 3 years between me and her. So she would have been like, what, maybe 25? I guarantee you she's never done a crowd that size in her life. So she must have been terrified as well. So I'm going to the toilet because I'm nervous. So off I go by myself. I've already been told by my friends before I left to go on this tour, you'll never get within 200 feet of Michael Jackson. You're a dancer for the support group. You're not going to meet him. And I said, you don't know Jaffa. Well, you do know Jaffa, so you should know that guaranteed he will not leave until he's met Michael. He simply won't. I promise you. Yeah, he won't manage it. I said, okay. So I'm going to the toilet. I walk through some double doors, and the double doors at the other end of the corridor open, and there's only me in this corridor. They open up, and Michael Jackson just walks through with 2 security guards behind him, and it's just me and them 3 in this corridor. And I'm just looking at him, and I'm thinking, this is night number 1, and he's like 30 feet away from me. He's like right there, casually strolling around, like not a care in the world. I have no idea what to do, so I just freeze on the spot, just staring at him, mouth open. I'm just thinking to myself, what else do you do at that point? I don't know how to behave. I don't know what to say. So I just freeze, and he just kind of walks up to me closer and closer and closer, and he just walks up to me. So we're almost face to face, and I'm just looking at him like, it's Michael. He's here, and it even nods at me or says hello. I honestly can't remember which. It was one or the other. It acknowledged me in one way or another, to which I think I just didn't do anything. I think I just stayed rooted to where I was. He laughed. He clearly thought it was funny, and he must have seen it happen before. He just laughed at me, and then just carried on walking. And even when he was gone, I was still there, rooted to that same spot, just not moving, just standing there, thinking, it's night 1, and he's right there. That was Michael Jackson, right in front of me. And when I got back to the changing room and told them lot, I said, Michael's right out there. You're not going to believe this. He's right out there. They all rushed out. He was long gone by that point. And I'm sat in the room on my own, just sitting there thinking, I don't know how to explain what's happened to my life. I don't know how to explain this. There is no explanation for this. I don't know how to explain it. How am I here? How? 2 years ago, I was in a prison cell. I'd never done dance a step in my life. I hated my own existence. I hated everything about the world. And now, what the fuck is going on? Right. I'm sorry for swearing, but sometimes it's necessary. Okay. And that was necessary because that is how I felt. I hope you can bleep that out, but it had to be said.
I won't.
Because that is how I felt right at that moment. I don't understand how it's gone from so low to so high for no reason. The only reason I can find is Jaffa. He is the reason. In my mind, he's the reason. He's 90% of the reason why we're here. He did all the work to put us in the right position, to talk to the right people, to network, to force me to network. So it's almost showtime. The stadium is now full. The chants of Michael, Michael, Michael have been going on now for a good couple of hours. They start and they do not stop. And it is loud. You can be nowhere near the stadium, and that's all you can hear is this chant of just Michael, Michael, Michael. It's just going non-stop. And the more you hear it, the more nervous you become. So it's like suddenly, right, it's go time. And I'm thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Well, it's too late. We're going. It is a massive case of, of be careful what you wish for. We wanted to see how far we could go. This is how far we could go. You realize there's a lot of luck in the fact that you managed to pick the one band to force yourself upon that was then handpicked by Michael. What are the chances? That is lucky. But you then got to remember that Rosella didn't need to take us with her. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She could have easily gone, I'm using no dancers. I'm going to go sing solo with the band. Or I'm going to get better dancers. I'll go Pineapple in London and get some trained dancers from there because this is a whole new level. But she didn't. She went, oh, hell no. If I'm going, then you two are coming. And that part wasn't luck. That part was earned. And it took me a while to think about that. Because people have said, oh, you were just lucky. We weren't lucky to be kept. That was a decision that she made. She went, no. You are part of this group. For the work that you've done, I like having you guys around. You are part of the unit. It's either we all go or none of us go. That was the attitude. As much as we wanted the plan to work. We wanted the fact that we had this crazy, insane plan. Just going straight to the source and going straight to these groups and saying, give us a chance, let us work. We wanted it to work. The truth is, it had worked 1,000 times better than we ever could have imagined. We had no idea it would be that effective and this quickly. We're walking to the stage. And this is the first time I've ever seen Jaffa look even slightly nervous. He said he's refusing to look at the crowd. So the way that we're set up to go, when we first go out, we have to stand on stage for like a minute and a half while an intro plays. Jaffa is refusing to look at the crowd until that intro finishes and we turn around. So he's not going to look. He's going to walk on with his head down, turn around, face the back of the stage, and he's refusing. He's that nervous. I don't want to see him. And I'm thinking, well, you're going to have to, mate, because they're right there, and there's a lot of them. So you can't really avoid 80,000 people. They're all there, and they're all going to be looking at us. But he's a bit nervous. I've got an MTV film crew trying to give me an interview as I'm walking towards the ramp, and I'm just like, no, just sorry, not right now. And again, it's not one of those moments where I'm thinking, who am I? I've got MTV trying to take mics in my face. They want to interview me. I'm no one. I'm a council estate kid orphan is who I am, wearing women's clothing with no idea what he's about to do. And yet MTV trying to interview me. My brain can't kind of hold in what's happening. So I have my side, Jaffa has his side. So we're just chatting before we go on. Jaffa's like, how do you feel? Are you okay? And I said, yeah. I said, it's a bit much. I said, but we're going to do it as we normally do. We're going to give them everything. Every single move we've got is what they're going to get. That's when he says to me, do you still feel like nothing? And I was just like, I don't know what to say. He said, I told you. He said, look where we are right now. He said, I told you we would do it, and we did it. I said, look, nobody helps us. This was you and me, and I told you from the beginning, you were never nothing. Look where we are. I don't know what to say. I didn't know what to say to him. Because even then, at that point, he's still going out of his way to remind me of this journey that we're on. That isn't just about dancing. It's about improving my life, improving his life, possibly finding our families and showing the world that because we had this horrendous beginning, it just depends how you choose to deal with it. Whereas I've been dealing with aggression and rage and fighting against things, whereas Jaffa had been dealing with it completely the opposite way. And his way worked, because the minute I switched to his way, look where I am. I'm not in prison. I'm about to walk out on this stage in front of 80,000 people. You know, the fact that he remembered to point that out to me, to reinforce it yet again. You know, negativity, it just brings it back to you. That's what it does. You know, if you've got a bad situation and you apply negativity to it, you just can receive more back. That's what you're going to get. Whereas Jaffa had learned, the nicer you are, the better things will happen to you. It's just as simple as that. So we're getting ready to go. He goes to his side. I go to my side. We've made a deal. We do every single move that we've got. He doesn't know. I thought he knew this. I knew this. We've been told, I'd been told, that the people in charge have said, we're not sure we need two support groups. We've got Rosella and we've got Chris Cross, the two little young rappers. We're not sure if we need both. So if you're not good enough, we're probably going to cut you from the tour. So I knew that was happening. And this was a dance for your lives moment. If we don't nail it, it'll be our first and last show. Jaffa doesn't know, but I do. So it's more pressure. To sum it up, I'm walking up that ramp. The band are on stage. They're set up at the back. The announcer has announced us. It's the Queen of Rave, Rosella. And that's our cue to start walking. We walk out, heads down, spin round, and face the back. And the intro starts playing. That minute and a half was so long. You can feel the crowd's energy behind you. You're thinking to yourself, the pressure that I've got right now. We're opening Michael Jackson's show, for one. This is the first night of this tour. And the first two people who are front and center on that stage alone is me and Jaffa. The huge screens either side of the stage, who's on them? Me and Jaffa. We're the first ones on this tour to do anything. There's that pressure. We don't want to let Rosella down. Imagine if we do something bad and Rosella gets told, nah, it wasn't good enough. We don't need you. I'm doing it for Jaffa. And he's doing it for me. I've got that pressure too. Because in the back of my mind is this drive, this idea that he has in his mind, which again doesn't really make a lot of sense, but he believes it. And if he believes it, then I believe it. And his belief is make our families proud. Maybe that will bring them back. I have to dance for him. And he's got to do it for me. So no matter what, we can't fail here. Add on top of that the excitement. Add on top of that the natural nervousness. Because we're not rehearsed. We don't know what we're doing. We're going to wing it as we go along. We've got no idea what we're going to do. We've got a couple of little sequences, but the majority of what we do is improvised. We get out there and decide what to do. So all that is mixing around while the music is playing. And the intro builds to a big crescendo. And then it just finishes. And it's deathly silence. And we've got maybe a 5-second silence between the intro finishing and the first piano chords coming in for the first song. And in that 5-second window is where me and Jaffa slowly turn around. So this is show number 1. So we have no idea what the crowd is going to do. When you do concerts over the course of a few gigs, you know when the crowd will respond. It'll be the same every single night to the same thing. So after you've done it a few times, you know what's going to happen. But night 1, you have no idea where the reactions are going to be, or if they're going to react at all, or if it's going to be good. They could boo you and start throwing stuff. You have no idea what they're going to do. So the minute we spun around, the whole stadium just roared at us. And we just looked up, and it's just like, wow. Not only is it huge, but the crowd is moving in waves like this, like a ripple effect. There's bodies on the floor in front. There's security pulling bodies, unconscious people out of the crowd. There are bodies crowd surfing towards 3, 4 at a time in different parts, more unconscious people. who are being crowd surfed to the front to be pulled out. The front of the crowd is in a massive frenzy. And it's the kind of sight that, I don't know, again, it's hard to describe it. And the roar, when they roar at you, because it creates this pressure wave that you can feel it hit you. And it's just like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So as soon as the first piano chords hit, the whole place just starts bouncing. Rosella comes out, they scream again. They've been waiting for hours for anything to happen. So at this point, something's happening. They're going for it. The first move I've got to do is this boosted back somersault. It's where Jaffa's hands go like this, my foot goes in the hands, and he flips me over, and then he just does a back handspring the other way. So I'm nervous because tricks can go wrong, especially when two people have to do them together. You do it by yourself, it's only you. But when it's two people, if the timing of one of you is off, or that's how it can go wrong. So on your own is one thing. With more than one person, there's many more things that can go wrong. So if this trick goes wrong, you're unconscious. So there's no hiding it. You can't recover. You can't cover it up. It's on your face and you're out cold. And I'm thinking, if I knock myself out here, it's going to get shown around the world. Everyone's going to be seeing it. Your dance career is effectively over. It's probably going to be your last show. You'll be known forever as the faceplant dancer who did that on Michael Jackson's tour. Forever. It was terrifying. So Rosella comes out. We do a few steps with her in time to get synced up, and then she moves. So the minute she moves out the way, I know that's my cue to go. So I spin round, walk towards Jaffa, and I'd already told him beforehand. I said, Jaffa, just give me some extra power. And he fired me like I'd been shot out of a cannon, launched me into the air. And I remember going over just thinking, please God, let my feet hit first. Because sometimes you're going over that fast, you can't tell if it's going right or not until you land, because everything's a blur. So it's whatever part of your body lands first, that's when you know, oh, feet first, fantastic. I remember going over and just thinking, I have no idea if this has gone right or wrong. I don't know. And then my feet connected and I thought, thank God. And as soon as I landed, the stadium just roared at us. So I'm just like, wow, Jaffa's now back flipping the other way. They roared again. And that was the moment where I thought, we've got him. We've got him here. Because we've worked the crowds before and they liked what we did. I think, if I'm honest, when these crowds watched us dance, they knew what they were watching. Whether it was here or in club shows, I think they knew what they were looking at. Because we didn't try and hide what we were. We embraced it. I think they looked at us and went, this is two random kids with no real idea of what they're doing. But look at them. They're just out there going, we love it. We're going to go for it. And you are going to get every single move that we have got. And we're going to love it. And you're going to love it. And I think that's how we came across. And I think people appreciated that. And I also think that's why Rosella, one of the reasons that she kept us, because I think she knew for a stadium audience, they needed that. Having a lot of dancers from, say, Pineapple in London, doing loads of choreographed routines, but it's all very sterile. You understand what I mean? There's no heart behind it. When you do routines, you're rooted to the same spot and you're rooted doing the same moves every night. When you're just allowed to roam free and do whatever you like, wherever you want, you can interact with the crowd. You can do this, you can do that. I can throw a flip here, I can jump off that, I can spin on my head over there. That's what they wanted. And I remember at one point being in front of that crowd on that first night, screaming at them at the front of the stage. Because we had free roam. I could go where I wanted. And I could be at the front. I was just screaming at them. And I realized I'm screaming at them and they're screaming back at me. And I thought, we've got control of this crowd, of certain sections of it. And the more I screamed at them, the more they screamed back at me. And the transfer of energy from them to us was just, I can't, It's like being a superhero. That's what it feels like. You feel like a superhuman. You've got like what 5, 10,000 people right there, and you're just yelling at them. I wasn't even yelling words, just noises at them, but they didn't care because it was the passion, and it was. And this is what I mean. I think they knew what they were looking at. We weren't claiming to be the best at anything, but we were claiming to go. We're going to put on a good show. We're gonna be exciting. Forget choreography. You're not going to get that with us. And what's the point? Michael's here later with his dancers. We can't outdo them with routines, so why even try? We're going to go so far the other way into organized chaos. You're not going to expect routines. You're going to expect all these tricks. It's like if you watch on one of the videos where Jaffa does the caterpillar. Down the front of the stage. I remember the first night he did that caterpillar, the crowd was not expecting that whatsoever. They didn't know what they were looking at. Jaffa's caterpillar is like what? It's like 2 or 3 feet off the floor. So he's going across the stage like this, and they did not expect it even slightly. At first, they were a bit silent, and then they're just roaring at him. And he does this caterpillar, he pops onto his feet, and does a standing back somersault. And these were the kind of moves we were doing. And I'll tell you something else as well. Later on in the tour, a couple of Michael's dancers came to us and went, those moves that you guys are doing, how are you doing that? Right. And we said to them, you're asking us how to do what we're doing. And they were like, yeah. And it dawned on me that they don't get to do stuff like that. They're doing routines as tight as they are. They're trapped doing the same routines every single night, whereas me and Jaffa were free to just go wherever we liked and do whatever we wanted. And that's what we did. And that first show was like, it's like a baptism of fire. And we came off because the back of the stage was full of all Michael Jackson's people watching us as well. So that was quite intense as well. And we came off and the people in charge were like, yeah, you're staying. Absolutely no doubt about it. Yeah, nailed. There's no way that you're going. You're staying. You're doing the whole thing. Nailed it. That moment of, what's even the word I'm looking for? I've not even got a word for it. A moment of like almost acceptance where you realize that you're performing at this level and you're good. This is something else that I only learned last week talking to Jaffa. When I saw him the other week and I said to him, Jaffa, you do realize that you're responsible for 90% of this, of everything we did. I was just following you. I would have been at the back hiding in that dance class or on TV at the back of the dancers hiding. It was you that dragged me out to the front and went, what are you doing back there? You're too good to be back there. I said, I followed you the whole way and you did all this work and I followed you. I said, I just wanted to thank you for that. I said, you changed my life completely. And he said to me, what do you mean? He said, I was following you. Wow. And I said, what? I said, what? He said, I was following you. What do you mean? And I was like, what do you mean, Jaffa? He said, when I came to dance on that first night, he said, I had no confidence in my dance ability. He said, I knew you guys were all on TV. He said, you were so much better than me. He said, I needed to find someone to justify my dancing ability. He said, I can't do routines because I can't remember the choreo. I'm terrible at it. And I always thought, how's anyone going to accept me if I can't do choreo and stuff like that? These guys are not going to accept me. He said, I needed someone to tell me that my dancing ability was good enough to be with these guys. And he said, you were that guy. Wow. You've been doing that for me the whole way through. And then we were just kind of looking at each other. I thought I was following him, and he thought he was following me. So it turns out we were both leading and didn't know it, which is what made it the perfect partnership, because at different points when it was needed, we both took control. When it came to the dancing, Jaffa was following me because Jaffa thought that's my guy, he's the dancer. So he will organize what we do, as organized as we get, but he will be in charge of that. But when it came to getting us where we needed to go, then Jaffa led and I followed. And I didn't know that until the other day, because he was always so ultra confident. To hear him kind of go, when it came to my ability and people accepting me and allowing me to do it, he had no confidence in that. He needed me to partner up with him and go, yeah, absolutely. That's why it was perfect. I couldn't have picked a better partner. We had so much in common. Like you say, you look at it all as a bigger picture. I don't know how it could have gone any better. The look of both of our friends dragging us to this same nightclub on different days. The look that Jaffa picked me out of a crowd of people and just went, that's my guy right there. The fact that he put this plan into action that was so ridiculous, of just going straight to the source and forcing him to let us dance, worked. And it worked straight away. And it worked with multiple acts. And it was a straight line. The fact that we picked an act that Michael personally picked, not that someone forced on him. He went, I've got this person, that person, that person. But I want her. I want Rosella. What are the chances? It's astounding. So we ended up, I think we did maybe 40 shows in the end. I think a couple got cancelled, but I think we did somewhere around 40. It was the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. We came on stage in Barcelona, and we've just come off. A runner comes to us and says, Michael wants to see you. We're like, now? Yeah, now. Right, let's go. Which you can see in the photograph of us and Michael, why we all look so disheveled. Some of us are still sweating. Rosella's hair's like this, because we literally just ran straight off stage. So that's why we look the way we do. It says, Michael wants to see you. So I'm thinking, right, this is it. This is it. Let's go. Through the stadium, in through a door. He's walking and he's just standing there. Me, Rosella, and the band, I just kind of stood there in shock. He's like 15 feet away, just standing there in his gold outfit, ready to go on and do jam, just stood there, smiling. Jaffa, on the other hand, this is the first time I've ever seen him lose it when it comes to celebrity. Normally, he's just completely normal. Not this time. He just loses it completely. So he runs over to Michael, grabs his hand, and starts shaking it, right? So I follow Jaffa. He's got Michael by the hand, and he's shaking it. And he's trying to thank him. But the words that are coming out, they're not even words. It's just noises. He's just kind of mumbling stuff. So every 3 or 4 words, you can hear the word Michael, and you can hear the word thank you. And those are the only 2 words that you can make out in what he's saying. The rest of it's just noise. And he won't let go of Michael Jackson's hand. When someone shakes your hand and they hold on for too long and it gets a bit uncomfortable and a bit weird, and you're thinking, you know what? Can you let go? Well, it was that, but worse, because he's vigorously shaking it. I'm at the side going, Jaffa, let him go. Jaffa, let him go. Jaffa, let go of Michael Jackson. Let him go. And he won't. He's just shaking it and just, thank you, Michael, thank you. Michael's laughing, thinks it's hilarious. I'm just at the side going, Jaffa, let him go. Let go of his hand, man. Let him go. Jaffa can't hear me. He's got tunnel vision. It's the first time I've ever seen him just lose it completely. It was over Michael Jackson. And I eventually got him to let go. I'm stood there and I shook his hand like a normal person and let go. And I'm just looking at him. And he says to me, I want to thank you for touring with me. And I said, excuse me? He said, I've watched your show. I've watched you dancing. He said, it's amazing. He said, I want to thank you guys for touring with me. Personally. And I was like, you're thanking me? I said, let me just get this straight. You, Michael Jackson, are thanking me for touring with you. Is that what's happening right now? And he said, yeah. And he was laughing. And I think I said something to the effect of, I wish there were more people here to see this because Michael Jackson is thanking me for touring with him, which was the most nonsensical thing I could ever imagine. I'd have done it for nothing. I was thinking, Michael, you're thanking me. I was just like, dude. And then the next I remember is Jaffa and our guitarist both fighting to get near him as much as they could. And I was just stunned. And that fight went on for a while. When we line up for the picture, you can kind of see that there's me, there's Jaffa, there's Michael, and the guitarist has kind of shoved his way in. Because I think the pair of them were fighting for position. They both wanted to be next to Michael in the picture. And this went on almost until the picture was actually snapped. They were still trying to push each other out the way to get closer to Michael. Oh, so the guitarist has kind of slid his way in there, and it's like, but I mean, it's very, very hard for me to describe the undescribable. It's very, very difficult because there is almost no way to describe it at all. To this day, I have no idea how we ended up in that position in 2 years. Going across, I mean, I think we did maybe, I don't know, was it 13 countries? Maybe, I don't know, maybe more, just on this tour, and we saw some of the most amazing things you can imagine. It made a nice change, you know, not feeling bad all the time, you know, to do it with your best friend as well. It's just this random guy who's appeared out of nowhere, armed with nothing except the intelligence that he had. You know, his intelligence, it wasn't academic. That wasn't what was needed for what we needed to do. I don't know. It's so hard to put it into words. But just to not feel as worthless as you do, because you do feel like that. You know, when when your family abandons you like that, it's hard not to feel like that. So to have that weight removed so effectively was a good thing, and to be able to help someone else who is on this journey where it's hopefully going to bring them what they want. And we did find our families, by the way, as well. I found my mother, and Jeff found his mother as well. So we did find them. Wow. But I mean, the tour itself was a mind-blowing experience. I mean, the amount of things that we got to see and experience. I mean, when the celebrities would come to watch Michael, what's really funny is the way they would treat us, because you'd be backstage and, like you say, there'd be actors and singers just wandering about, and they would run into us backstage, and because we were wearing the passes, they would know we're part of the show in some capacity, and they would actually almost be humbled and look up to us. It's hard to explain. It's the way they would kind of look at you and answer you. Like, you could have someone like Sly Stallone, but when he would talk to us in this environment, he would almost act like, yeah, I'm Sly Stallone, I'm a massive actor, but this is your environment, not mine. Mm-hmm. So here, you're the star, not me. I'm just some dude who's watching. You're the guys out on that stage. And that was the vibe you got from so many of these celebrities when they would speak to you. They would kind of go, this is your show. So here, you're the star here, not us. And that happened multiple times. There was another instance where we ended up sharing a hotel with Michael. So normally we were in separate hotels. This one show, I think it was in Rome, we all got put in the same hotel. We pulled up in the bus, came round from the back to the front. There must have been, I don't know how many thousands of people outside the hotel. We couldn't even get in. Thousands of people, paparazzi. We had to fight our way through the crowd to try and get up the steps in. So the way the steps were, they kind of went up to the hotel, and there was a bit of space had been created so you could get up the steps. So we fought through the crowd. The minute we hit these steps, the paparazzi or bulbs went off. People saw the passes. The camera flashes went off. The crowd started to roar. And it was just like overwhelming. So I think Michael had an entire floor to himself and had out a floor for his crew and for us. So we shared this one floor with Michael's crew. We had a lot of interaction with Michael's crew because they were all absolutely fantastic. You know, we went out partying together, we went clubbing together, and they were amazing. And we were on this floor, and everyone's got the hotel room doors propped open, so everyone can go from room to room and blah blah blah. And there's only us up there, so all the doors open. There's music playing. So me and Jack were in our room chilling, watching TV, and they're watching a music channel in one of their rooms. And what comes on? One of the music videos that me and Jaffa are in, that we'd done a couple of years beforehand. So we're in our room watching TV, and suddenly we're going to hear all this cheering coming from down the thing. And we can hear people shouting, where's our two superstars? Where are they? We didn't have a clue what was going on. And next minute, all of Michael's crew are at our door, applauding us and going, you two, you're on TV down there. You're in a music video. You didn't warn us that you two are superstars. Look at you on TV. And the vibe that we got from that, and it was sincere. It wasn't they were mocking us. They were celebrating. They were celebrating every bit of it. They were like, and I can't really explain it. It was like the happiness that they had for us. They did not expect to put on the TV and see me and Jaffa. And it's a very bad video, by the way. Let's get that clear. It's not impressive at all. It's not. It's shocking. But the reaction from Michael's crew to us, applauding us, and it was just like, dude, you know, that was just one of these little moments where, you know, you sit there thinking, I don't deserve this. What have I done to deserve this treatment? But then I think back to the early part of my life and think, is this now the seesaw being balanced? Because that's what it feels like. Maybe I do deserve this. Things have been pretty rough up until this point. Maybe we do deserve this. Maybe that's exactly what we deserve. The problem is there were so many stories that I could tell you from our time of doing that, from the other tours, of all the adventures that me and Jaffa did together, because we did everything together. And it was just this whirlwind of flying here, flying there. Like you say, we felt like international playboys. That's what we felt like. And the two people who had nothing, it was just, like I said, I haven't got an explanation. I haven't got one. I can't explain how it feels to go from feeling, you know, that bad about yourself. Because back in the early days, there were a couple of moments where I was ready. I was ready to go. A few times I'd be at home at night on my own, just cursing the life that I had and just thinking, well, do I want to continue like this? Not really. And it came close a couple of times, but I didn't have the courage to go through with it. So I never did. I just kind of thought, you know, and no one ever really knew, because my friends would see me the next day and they would never know, because I would never explain to them how I felt, because most of them didn't have the capacity to understand it. So I didn't try and explain it, which is why when Jaffa came along, he knew how I felt, because he felt very similar to himself. So it made things a lot easier. I didn't need to explain to him, because I knew the same pain that I had. I knew he had the same thing. You know, to go from a life like that, where you're just thinking, well, what am I existing for? I don't know what my point is. Everyone else seems to have a purpose, but I don't seem to have one. You know, everyone else seems to have families where, you know, they're wanted by the parents and the parents are happy they're here. I don't have that. I don't even know if my father even knows that I even existed. I don't know if my mother even told him that she was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And now he's dead. So he'll never know. So it was like, you know, what do you do with this life? What is the purpose? So now to look back at my life now and think, I've been a pro dancer now for nearly 39 years. I've been a teacher for like probably 36 years of that. You know, if you had told me back then that when I was in prison, I'd end up being a teacher, the people would give me their children and adults as just, here's the responsibility of looking after these kids and teaching them, that's unheard of. I would never have thought in a million years that I'd be a teacher. And to have done it for so long and at the level that I've taught at, because I've been very lucky because what I did with Michael gave me a reputation. So when I came back from being on tour, people would come to me and they would say, you taught with Michael, so you must be good. Teach me. And that still happens now. All these years, that's why I've not retired. I tried to retire, but I'll retire. The phone will ring. Bov, is that Bov? Yes, it is. You work with Michael Jackson? Yeah, I did. Teach my kid. Yep, okay. And I'm back where I started again. That's what happens. And like I say, one kid that I taught, he won Britain's Got Talent, and he came back to me and he's like, "Thank you for changing my life," which is what prompted me to go and see Jaffa and kind of go, "Jaffa, I need to tell you the same thing because of what you did for me." I remember that kid saying that to me. I remember how it made me feel when he said that I'd changed his life. And I was like, I helped. He said, no. He said, you changed it. He said, the routine that I used to win that competition was yours. It was the moves that I used were your moves. The ones you taught me that. And that's how I won. And my life has been different ever since. And it's like, to actually have that position where you now think people are now looking up to me.
Mm.
And, I've got bands, successful bands, boy bands in the charts. You open up their albums. I'm in there. Thanks, Bov, for this. Thanks for that. Because I trained them. And I look at some of these situations and I just think, sometimes I don't know what to make of it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking to the fans since that movie came out is another layer that's been now added, because the way they're responding to me and the things that they're saying to me has now changed the way I look at a lot of stuff, because now I'm honestly starting to believe that all the bad things that happened to me, they had to happen. Otherwise, there is no way on this earth we would have ended up on that tour with Michael Jackson. It wouldn't have happened. It had to be that way to get me there. We needed to be strong. We needed to be durable. We needed to be willing to do what other dancers were not willing to do to get us into that position to even have a chance of doing something like that. And that's what happened. And then from there, I've been able to then pass on what I've learned to other people. To hear people saying to me on TikTok and places like that, they're jealous. I wish I had the life that you had. You must have lived an extraordinary life, and this is what I'm getting day in, day out, day in, day out. And to hear people saying they're envious of my life, envious of the absolute shit show that was the first 20 years of my life. Whereas now I look at it as a complete package. And to hear people saying that, you are the luckiest man alive. You realize that you've lived the dream of most of the people on the planet. That's what people are saying to me. What's it like to be one of God's favorites? One of God's favorites, they're saying to me. And I'm thinking, this is now how people perceive me. And that changes my own perception. That needed to happen to both of us, to have the skills and the drive that we needed, because that drive we had to push ourselves forward, to try and find our families, to try and give ourselves an existence where money didn't matter. We didn't care about that. Material things. People who live comfortable, they like material stuff. The luxuries. We had none of that, so we didn't care about it. Here's your wages. Keep it. Not interested. Who does that? I tell you who. People who have nothing because they don't care. Give me a life. Don't give me money. Give me an existence, a reason to exist. Because until that point, there wasn't one. Mm. And to take that to as high as we did, to being thanked by Michael Jackson himself. And again, after watching that movie and seeing the reaction to the movie, you realize how unbelievably, ridiculously massive this man is. You
Mm.
see the world's reaction to what is happening and realize that you're a part of this story. That's mind blowing. A small part, admittedly, but I'm still part of it. The fact that he thanked me personally, face to face, man to man, and trusted me to open 40 of his shows. What can I say? I don't have any words. But Jaffa was right all along in everything that he said, and you know, he slowly rewired my entire train of thought from thinking, you're a nobody. No, you're not. You've got a lot of skills. You're just too afraid to use them. You've been beaten down that much. You just think hiding at the back is a safe place. Well, it is safe, but we're not going to do safe. Your family are not going to find you if you hide there. And he was right. It was nice to hear that I played my part for him too. That it wasn't just me following him, the unknown to me that he was following me, and I just didn't realize it. I think that was the final part of the jigsaw for me when he told me that, because I had no idea of that at all. That was it was a lot when he told me that. To be honest, it was quite a lot to take in. It's been an adventure. Let me put it that way. One that we're both very, very grateful for. Like I say, it's given me a career that spanned nearly 40 years and will probably continue until I physically can't teach anymore. It's given me an experience that not many people will ever get to do. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck in this paradox. Have I been lucky? Have I been unlucky? Do I need one to help achieve the other? I don't know. But the good news is I'm not angry anymore. That's the best part. That's the best part
Yeah.
about it. The anger is gone. But I can look at my life in a whole different way now and see it for what it is. I think that's probably the biggest thing I can take away from it is that I got to change everything completely, and by some absolute miracle, end up on the biggest show on earth.
I think your story is very inspiring. And like you were saying before, with everything that you went through, you don't have words to explain a lot. And I feel like that now. Like I just don't have words to explain your story except amazing and inspirational, and it shows that you can essentially come from nothing and have an amazing life. And I was thinking when you were talking that, before you even mentioned the movie, that you and Michael and Joffrey also had similar stories. Not very like similar, but you all started, he started out in Gary, Indiana, poor family, and they didn't have anything.
Mm.
He went through a lot, was abused and all of that. And same with you guys, but you came out on top.
Yeah, it was hard watching that part of the film
I'm
when
sure.
Michael gets abused at the start. It was
Yeah.
difficult to watch
Well,
because it does bring back a lot of memories, and you remember what it's like being like that. So that part of the movie was quite difficult to watch. But like you said, life can be hard, and like I said, the reason I focus so much on the backstory is because there are people out there, who have these existences, and they have no one to talk to because a lot of them, there are people around them who think they know what this
mm,
person is going through, but they don't.
right,
They can try and understand it, but you can't understand it.
right.
To someone who's lived at home with their parents their entire lives, you physically can't understand what it's like to never know your parents and to grow up living with strangers.
Yeah,
You can't do it. You physically can't because you don't know anything else. So you can try your best and you can mean it. The empathy is there, but you will never truly understand. It takes someone who's in that situation to understand. I mean, I met my mother maybe 10 years ago, and that was the first and last time I ever saw her. It was that one meeting. I
mm,
knew I'd never see her again. I could already tell. But like I said, if you grew up with your parents, you have no idea what that situation is like.
right.
You'll never know, and you probably people should be grateful that they don't know because it's not pleasant. People who know, they just know. So it doesn't have to be really spoke about. But when it comes to things like Mother's Day and Father's Day, up until the point where I met my mother and kind of got to put that chapter to bed, got some answers that I needed, but I got closure. But up until that point, things like Mother's Day, Father's Day, you can't be on social media. You can't do it because you're watching the whole world celebrate this thing that you've never seen before. And it's painful. Even as a grown adult male, it's painful. Oh, my mum does this for me, and my dad does this for me, and I love my. You watch the thing. I've never even met my mother. I don't even know who my father. My father doesn't even know if I exist. I got no idea whatsoever. That's what you feel every single time. And again, people who are in that position would never think about that. How does it feel to people who don't have parents to see Mother's Day or Father's Day? It's not a pleasant sensation at all. And how can someone know what that feels like unless you're in that position? You can only just take a guess. For me personally, I hope some people who are living in these situations, whatever it is, I hope they do see this. And I hope they understand that your situation is what you make of it. I get that life can be tough and it can be exceptionally tough, but it does not mean you don't have an alternative. It might take a bit of hard work to drag yourself out of it, but you have to, because who else is going to do it? You know what I mean? And sometimes being that way, it's an advantage. It's not a disadvantage because it makes you tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the time you don't really see that. It makes you tough and it makes you resilient and it makes you willing to go further than everybody else. And you'd be surprised how many people who are successful now come from situations like that because their drive is so much stronger. So if anyone sees this who feels, in a certain way, know there are people here who know exactly what they feel like. We know exactly what it's like. We hope we know a lot of us have been there, but we also know that there's also a way out. And if me and Jaffa can do it, which we did, and we did it alone, with no assistance, just the two of us backing up each other and going, right, you're my guy, I'm your guy, whatever it is, we do it together. Simple. And it worked.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I really do hope that a lot of people see it and hear it, because there's a lot of wisdom in what you've said to us tonight. So thank you so much for that.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been nice talking about it. I like getting it off my chest sometimes, and it's good to talk. Let's put it that way.
Yes, it is. And it's good for other people to hear. So
Correct.
thank you again. And thank
You're
you,
welcome.
everyone, for listening and watching. It's all for love. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us. Every story, every reflection is a reminder that Michael's legacy is not just in his music. It's in the love that we choose to carry forward. If this episode touched you, I invite you to subscribe, share, or leave a review. It truly helps this message reach more hearts. And if you feel called to share your own Michael Jackson story, you'll find the link in the show notes to connect. Until next time, it's all for love.